All you gotta do is say my name 3 times. Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice. It's showtime, folks. Hello, ladies and gents, boys and girls, people of all ages, sexualities and identities, and welcome back to another film review. And today we have some double bubble for ya. Because today we're not just doing one Beetlejuice film. No, we're doing 2 Beetlejuice films. So, without further ado, let's jump right into the story. What is the film Beetlejuice about? Well, it's essentially about a couple who get married, find a house, and die in the house. However, once they die, another family comes in and takes over, and out of anger for them living in their house, they decide to haunt it and essentially bring another spirit in to chase the family out of the house once and for all. However, this other ghost, this other spectre, this other phantom that they bring into the house is a phantom that they've been warned from the afterlife not to bring in because he is one of the most vilest demons ever known. His name is none other than Beetlejuice. So, what do you need to know about Beetlejuice? Oh, he studied at Oxford. He lived through the Black Plague, and he had a pretty funny time during that. He's seen The Exorcist about 167 times, and it keeps getting funnier every single time he sees it. Not to mention he's a dead guy. So what do you think? Is he qualified to haunt the living daylights out of this family? So the haunting begins, but the 2 ghosts become very good friends with a young girl named Lydia. And it turns out that Lydia doesn't necessarily want to live in the house, but she's forced there by her family. And to make matters worse for Lydia, it turns out that her stepmom Delia is trying to use the place as an art exhibition and pretty much just sell the house off for profit, which Lydia sees as absolutely crass and out of order. Lydia has no problem with working with the ghost to scare her parents out of the house. However, when she does so and they join alliance with Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice decides he no longer just wants the house, he wants Lydia with it. And with that, she will become his child bride. The ghosts are appalled by this as they have no problem raising Lydia in the house, but they don't necessarily want Beetlejuice to own everything and have his own way. So they run back to the afterlife and try and figure out a way to stop Beetlejuice from taking over Lydia. The only way to reverse the curse, however, is to say his name 3 times. And what makes it worse with Beetlejuice's supernatural powers is he manages to essentially use them against the ghosts and stop them from saying his name. However, he doesn't expect his child bride Lydia to use the curse against him, and so they send him back into the afterlife with a small head. Beetlejuice is then left in the waiting order and eventually punished for interfering with the matters of the human race. So, let's get into the scoring at least of this first film. Beetlejuice, the original film, is an absolute timely classic. It has brilliant themes, brilliant motivations. However, personally, I do prefer the musical version of this adaptation. Why? Not because this adaptation was necessarily bad. It was brilliant, it was funny, it was great for its time. But the musical which they've made nowadays, based on this adaptation, definitely gives Lydia and BJ, as he likes to call himself in the play, and also in a lot of these films, gives them a little bit more depth, and gives them a little bit more time to be expanded upon. So for that reason, I give the first Beetlejuice a solid 8 out of 10. Now we move on to the second film, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice. This is a very interesting film because it picks up from where we left off in the last film. Lydia and Delia have moved on with their lives. Lydia has now had a child, and she now has a husband who has been living off of her reputation for being a psychic and being able to commune with the dead. However, Lydia gets spooked in this film when all of a sudden she starts to see Beetlejuice. She sees his face around the place, and it turns out that he has been watching her for a very long time and has never forgotten her. Meanwhile, elsewhere down the street, it turns out that Lydia's daughter has become really good friends with a neighbourhood outcast. However, what Lydia's daughter doesn't realise is that this outcast isn't alive. He, in fact, is a dead demon looking for any soul he can use to bring him back to the life of the living. So he takes Lydia's daughter on a train, a soul train, which will trap her in the afterlife forever. But, luckily, with the help of Beetlejuice, Lydia manages to save her daughter. Meanwhile, she also finds out that Delia has accidentally died from a snake she picked up. Delia didn't even realise that she had died, and to make matters even worse, it turns out that Beetlejuice is up to his old schemes. The only way for him to have for Lydia to have freed her daughter was to agree to marry Beetlejuice. The marriage begins to take place, but then, all of a sudden, Delia and Lydia's daughter begin to realise that there is a way to stop the wedding, and that is to call Beetlejuice's name 3 times. And the brilliant thing in this scene is just the song that they play. Someone Left the Cake Out in the Rain. It's just an absolute phenomenal song that really ties this whole scene together. However, what I mentioned earlier was not the only plot that was going on in this film. There was 2 plots. One being the boy trying to take away Lydia's daughter, and the other plot being Beetlejuice's ex-wife starts turning up and turning everyone to like ash and dust, which is very funny and ironic because it shows Beetlejuice pretty much running around trying to play detective whilst also trying to avoid his ex-wife. And whilst this happens, Lydia ends up asking what's up with why he's so scared of his ex-wife, and he points out that it's all because she poisoned him and is kind of the reason he was dead in the first place. So I went to go and watch Beetlejuice in the cinema, and I've got to say, I feel like as a sequel to the original, it's very strong. I feel like it's even stronger than the original in some elements, and I really like the relationship that has been built between Lydia and her daughter. I also really like how Lydia's husband gets called out in this film for pretty much only being with Lydia to take advantage of her and pretty much live off of her fame, as many people do. I mean, he literally blatantly on her doorstep calls her a wacko, and that's when the whole family turns against him. Beetlejuice's relationship with Lydia, I think, is a very strong one. It's often played off as comedy, but I feel like there's something much stronger there sometimes. Is it feels like Beetlejuice is constantly trying to reaffirm this idea that Lydia should respect herself more than worry about what other people think. And that really transcends through both films as a whole. And I think it's what makes their characters so brilliantly incredible. And for that reason, I give Beetlejuice a solid 9 out of 10. Right, and seeing as this is a whole Beetlejuice video, I thought there is no way that I can finish the video without at least doing an honourable mention to the play. The play is an absolutely sensational piece of theatre that has clearly watched the original and done its own interpretation. It has songs such as Invisible, Say My Name, and
Barbara one. All of these songs clearly outlining the backstory. Oh, and Dead Mum, not to forget. All clearly outlining the background of these characters. And clearly, as we're doing ratings on this, I'm going to have to give the play a solid 10 out of 10 out of all three of these. I feel like it literally takes the elements from both films and makes it so magical to the audience. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next film review. Until then, goodbye and stay beautiful, you incredible people.